Plattsburgh. As I said, he is a member of the Historical Society. He's here with his wife, Linda, who's with him right tonight. She is Linda Bartles Clarke. Thank you for coming. And her mother was Maud Tallur of the town of Clinton. So roots for her go way back, He is a professional trustee and executor for estates. He was previously a trust officer for several banks, including the Bank of New York. Previous to that, he was a bank examiner for the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, specializing in trusts and estates. He was born and raised in New Jersey. He's kind of known locally, I'm going to share this, for handling the estate of Betty Davis, who was a very important woman in our community and made some exciting finds as part of handling that estate, which maybe he'll tell you about, maybe he won't. You ask him. He was born and raised in New Jersey, and we're happy to have him here with us in the town of Clinton. So Owen, please come up. Thank you.
Very much. Well, first, let me explain that say that by no means am I an expert. How I got involved in collecting paintings, sort of interesting. I inherited one painting, which I'll show in the presentation. Another painting from my family, I'm not going to show because I didn't add it to the program. But I grew up in a wonderful house that was built in 1743, and my parents had great antiques and paintings, and I just became enamored with it. So I'll go on with that. Now, in the announcement, it talks about the fact that the Hudson River School grew up during the Industrial Revolution. And you'll see by the date, we are now 200 years since the start of the Hudson River School. Very interesting. The label, I got to figure out how to, click on it. Okay, there you go. See, I went out and bought this computer in preparation for this. I'm still learning because my old computer laptop just didn't have the modern things that I needed. Okay, the label and the American identity. Hudson River School refers to American landscapers that painted between 1825 and 1875. And it wasn't really a school, as the word we know school to mean, but it was a group of artists that mainly lived in the Hudson River Valley area. And they did a lot of things together. They traveled and went on sketching trips. And one of the sketching trips that started it all was in 1825, when Thomas Cole got on a steamship from New York and was traveling up to the Catskill Mountain House. And when he was there, he did a lot of sketches. And he went back to his studio in New York City, and those sketches became paintings. And then the paintings were, as I will tell you, they were noticed by some very important people, and all of a sudden he had a lot of friends who were also artists. Their work was shown in New York City galleries, and in 1870, Clarence Cook, a New York Tribune art critic, coined the label Hudson River School of Art. This was a time in the late 1870s when this work was not as popular as it had been previously. and was starting to fall off in popularity. It emerged into a new medium of photography. The school also developed a new generation of people looking into geology and also the transportation. How do I get up to the Hudson River Valley? How do I get up to the Catskill? So a lot of it was promoted by or came about because of the Hudson River School. Now, I'd like to read a quote that this is from Judith Hanson O'Toole, and she's the director and CEO of Westmoreland Museum of American Art. Quote, "The artists of the Hudson River School had a seemingly appetite for direct observation and landscape around them, fed by the belief in both beauty and spiritual nature." She went on later to say that the artists were inspired by the seasons, the times of day, the weather condition, and the various effects of light. And you'll see in some of the paintings that I brought, you'll see an effect of light, and you'll see them also on the ones that are on the program. Light illumination is very important to now the three themes that really come out about Hudson River School was discovery, the traveling up to the Catskills, the exploration in the Catskills, and the settlement that people started moving up there. And that created American identity. The paintings also show a pastoral settings of human beings and nature that coexist. And in many of the paintings, you'll see deer, cows, sheep, and so on, and man living with those. Now, major importance was the fact that the message went out to save the land from being destroyed or built up. And the painting done by Thomas Cole and the others sent that message. While there was still time, they could save the land. In the 1870s, there was a large area of land that was preserved and later became a national park. Or I should say parks, plural. This in turn eventually led to environmental movements to protect the forest, to protect water, to protect the air, and also to protect wildlife. Now, before I get to this one, I just want to say this, another major importance. John Trumbull, who was an artist, he declared the style of the paintings as the American identity. And he also said it's 100% American art. And that's very important. And John Trumbull was quite a famous artist. He in turn saw some of these paintings in New York that were being exhibited, especially Thomas Cole's, and helped bring an awareness. Now, there are three generations of Hudson River School artists. The first generation, there are four names, four people. I just like to list those. Thomas Cole, Asher B. Durand, Alvin Fisher, and Thomas Dowdy. The second generation has six names. Frederick Church was in one of those, and also Sanford Robinson Gifford and Albert Bierstadt. And the third generation had 39 names, which one I'm going to speak about is George H. McCord. Now, these generations worked with each other, taught each other, as you'll hear in the presentation, of who became students of whom and so forth. And Thomas Cole, his age, He went from 1801 to 1848. He died at a very young age. He ended up settling in Catskill, New York, and his home is now a museum. And across the river is Frederick Church's Olana. And Frederick Church was a student of Thomas Cole. Asher Durand, he went from 1706 to 1886. So he was a 90-year-old gentleman. And that's quite an age for a person back in that time. Frederick Church, 1826 to 1900, and Albert Bierstadt, 1830 to 1902. And I'm going to talk about each one of these as we. I'll talk about kindred spirits first. Thomas Cole and William Cullen Bryant are pictured standing on a ledge looking at the Catskill Falls. Now, this particular painting was commissioned by, on my page, it was commissioned by a famous gentleman by the name of John Sturgis, and it was commissioned in 1848, just after Thomas Cole died. And he commissioned Asher B. Durand to do the painting. Now, I think this is probably the most popular and probably the most prestigious painting I've ever seen for Hudson River School. The Sturgis family donated the painting in 1908 to the New York Public Library. And then in 2006, the New York Public Library sold it. And it went to the Crystal Bridge Museum of American Art, located in Bentonville, Arkansas. And guess what? They sold it for $36 million. That's a big, big number for Asher B. Durand. So now you have to see the picture because that's the picture. And you can see they're standing there together. William Cullen Bryant, he was a poet and an author. And the two of them were friends. And they just wanted to make sure that this was captured. And the Catskill Falls, you can see way in the back. It's a real special painting to dwell on. It's in Bentonville, Arkansas. Yeah, they sold it. Okay. I'm going to talk about my favorite artist a little later on, George H. McCord, and the reason for that. Oh, there I am already. George H. McCord was a third generation, and he's not known as well as the other artists. And for an investor, that's a good thing, because once his work is really becomes better known, paintings obviously get more expensive. So this is one of mine at my home. This is the painting that I inherited. I always loved this painting, and Peggy Mayer, Margaret Mayer, from IBM, she left this in her will to me, because I was very close to her and took care of a lot of things for Peggy. And it's a G.H. McCord, and you can see the effects of the light again, and the light on the water, the light on the ship. I have a second painting which is very similar to this, which was painted at a later time at night. And it's interesting to put the two next to each other. I didn't take a picture of that one, but the two next to each other and seeing the difference. This is a picture of these ladies are taking a bath. And it's a G.H. McCord. This is, again, you see the light situation. The light is amazing, the way it's treated. And again, this is a winter scene, and he's on ice. As you can see, there's snow around. Of course, you know, the pictures probably don't do justice to the actual painting, but you know, it's the best. I did bring some smaller paintings to show. And G.H. McCord was involved with a lot of marine paintings, as you saw before, the other ship. But this is another one that I have, and this one is over in my office. And it's just a wonderful painting to look at every day from my desk. Now, there's a prominent female artist, and grab her. I can't, thank you. Susie Barstow. And I know there was a presentation here maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, about Susie Barstow. And she is very interesting because of the fact that she's a female artist that did a lot of traveling, did a lot of going up into the woods. But most interesting, though, is the fact that when she was 2 years old, Asher Durand did a portrait of her mother. And because of that, I believe that she was really very taken with Asher Durand and his style, and learned from, that's her painting, Susie Barstow. And I have a book here that shows a lot more of her paintings if anyone's interested. But I did want to give her some exposure because she did a fantastic job. Now, there's several museums that are worth visiting. The Thomas Cole Museum, as I mentioned, in Catskill. Olana, home of Frederick Church, which is across the bridge, and I call it Hudson. It's probably Claverack or something like that, but I call it Hudson. The New Britain Museum of American Art is a wonderful museum. And the Hudson River Museum down in Yonkers, that's another extraordinary. And the last one is Wadsworth Ambient in Hartford, Connecticut, which is supposed to have the largest collection of Hudson River school art. But we're blessed here because we have the Francis Lehman Loeb Art Center at Vassar. And as a thrill, we have Mills Mansion in Staatsburg. And in that Mills Mansion, there's an Albert Bierstadt painting. And I didn't take a picture of it because I thought you'd like to do a little treasure hunt to find it. I can tell you it's on the first floor. So if you visit it and you find it, you know, feel accomplished. But it's a beautiful painting. Now, Albert Bierstadt did a lot of traveling out west, and he has a lot of Rocky Mountain scenes that he's done. And I will be showing you one a little later on so you can see that. Now, the Francis Lehman Loeb Art Center at Vassar, that's an experience all in itself. Now, in that, I'm going to just go over the list of what's there, and I'll show you some of the pictures. There's 2 Asher Durands, my favorite being Through the Woods. There's 2 William Harts, 1 Jervis McEntee. There's 2 Frederick Church, one of which is Autumn in North America and Summer in South America. There's 1 Sanford Robinson Gifford, 1 Charles Moore, 1 William Lewis Sontag, 1 Jasper Cropsey, and 1 George Inez. And I'm going to take you through the paintings so you can see some of them. Okay. This first one is the Frederick Church. It's called Autumn in America. And here again, you can see the use of light. And there's an animal there. Believe it or not, there's an animal there. A very, very pretty picture. Again, all of these are over in the museum. And it's a free museum too, by the way. So that shouldn't hold anyone back. The second one is Where the Streamlet Sings in Rural Joy, done by Asher Durand. Kind of a unique title, but all in all, it's a very comforting picture. Again, light can change a mood. Using light on a painting certainly changes the mood. This is William Hart. And this is Landscape with Cows. That's what it's titled. Very simple, but it's a again, the reflection in the stream. That's right. This is a Charles Moore, Down the Hudson to West Point. And you see, they started bringing in, you even see a railroad here to the side, and of course the sailboats. Now, this is my favorite, Through the Woods by Asher Durand. I've always loved white birch trees. And again, growing up, we had a white birch tree in our yard, and it was my favorite tree. This is Sanford Robinson Gifford. It's called The Shrine of Shakespeare. This is a George Inez. It's called Evening in the Meadows. And you probably have another animal back there. And this is a Jervis McEntee. It's called Beeches and Ferns. I'm trying to figure that. I can see the ferns, but beech trees, I guess, is the technical name for that tree. So it's beeches and ferns. I brought some books for people to look at if they wish. These are the two that I highly recommend. The Hudson River School by Terwin Cobblestone. It's a 1999 edition, and I'll have these up here for you to look at. And then again, the Hudson River Painters. And in these books, there'll be a lot of pictures and bios of the individuals, so that it's very helpful. And note cards and postcards. I have them to show you. These are simple things that you can buy at the Statsburg Mansion gift shop. And they're all old paintings from, and the gift cards, just thank you notes you write on them, and also postcards. Now, there's treasures in Clinton, and Betty Davis certainly had a treasure. She had an Albert Bierstadt, and there it is. I remember she sold this through Sotheby's, and the auction estimates, if I may say, were $80,000 to $120,000. I will not tell you what she got, but those were the estimates. Sometimes prices go over estimates. But this is a Bierstadt. Again, you can see he was out in the Rocky Mountains, and he actually became part of the Rocky Mountain School as well as the Hudson River School. We have a local artist, which is important to follow. But before I get to her, I want to just mention that so in the town of Clinton, there's other artists that you should know about because their work is in homes. I know that for a very fact. John L. Curtin, Alice and Martin Provenson, and Owen Dowes. Their paintings are all within a lot of homes that are in this area. So it's now back to Terrell. Now, I put her down in Hyde Park because she pays her taxes to Hyde Park. She gets her mail in Poughkeepsie, one of those deals. So she lives in the town of Poughkeepsie. She has been voted the best artist in the Hudson Valley for 5 years. And I brought two of her works that I own just to show you. But I also brought these paintings. This is one that is in my house. This is here to show, and of course the lighting is not good with my camera, but you can see the detailed work on the frames. Okay, now she has her work displayed right now at the Inn at Belfield. Now the Inn at Belfield is right across from the Culinary Institute. And on every floor, when you get off of the elevator, there's her work. And I brought a program for anyone who would like to see it, showing all of her work. I selected a few to show you. This is called the Ashokan Blues. It's a 24 by 18, and the prices are listed here. I'm not going to cite prices, but she has done a fantastic job. This is called Peach Hill Autumn Sunset, and it's a 16 by 24. Peach Hill's in Poughkeepsie? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, thank you. And this is sunset over North, South Lake and Catskills, New York. And the last one I want to show you is the Vanderbilt Vista with sailboats, 21 by 28. So it's a little larger, but it's a great, great painting. Before I get to my surprise, I want to tell you a few other things. One of the places where I have been successful purchasing art and even just viewing the wonderful work that they have is Shannon's Fine Art Auctions, and they're in Milford, Connecticut. And I brought some of the books for you to see. They're their program books for that they send out ahead of the auction. And the next auction is October 30th. So they're still taking consignments now, but it's a fantastic auction house, very, very reliable and nice people to deal with. And it's just a wonder. You know, I want to tell you a little story, which is kind of interesting too. It's called History Travels with a Painting. It's an interesting story that I saw on a Facebook page for Hudson River School artists, Hudson River School of Art Facebook page. And it's all about a painting that was done by Sanford Robinson Gifford, the artist. He's the third generation. And he served in the Civil War. He was a soldier. And he did a painting which was called A Coming Storm. And it's now located in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. In this painting, it depicts the effects of weather and light on the banks of Lake George, New York. Now, what's interesting about this story is he was a Civil War soldier. The painting was first owned by a Shakespearean actor named Edwin Booth, brother to John Wilkes Booth. Herman Melville, the great American writer, saw the painting on exhibit in New York, and it affected him so much because of the death of Abraham Lincoln and the fact that Sanford was a soldier, that he wrote a poem about tragic symbolism. And I'm sure you can find it, but it's just an interesting story that I came across on the Facebook page, and they had pictures of a painting that was done by. Now, the surprise that I have is the first surprise is I'm going to donate this picture, and I'm going to unveil it to the Town of Clinton Historical Society for the Restoration Fund. And I'm donating it in honor of Maud Talor and the Talor family. Maud being my mother-in-law, and of course, Linda and Susan's mother, who's here. So this painting will go on to the hoedown, where the opening bid will be $500. Now, unfortunately, it's not really a Hudson River school, but it's a local artist. And I'm sure you'll do some research on this, Jen Hollenbeck. And let me just get so I can show the audience here. Excuse me. No. That's the painting. So I'm going to turn this over tonight. Hopefully you sell it. Minimum bid should be $500 because it's worth more than that. I can tell you.
Is it watercolor?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Well, can you hold it up in front of your camera?
I can try. Sure.
That's all the audience see it.
Does that show?
Yeah, not that good. They'll have to come and see it at the hoedown.
Yeah, come to the hoedown.
Beautiful.
Okay. So that's the one. And hopefully we'll bring in some funds for the restoration. And then to make the surprise more interesting, there's the painting so that the people at home can see it. That's a picture. Little girl walking with a red umbrella through the woods. But it's a very, very, it's a very pretty painting. Now, the extra bonus is I'm donating an Asher B. Durand painting. Now, opening bid is $15,000. Now, you heard me say before that Asher Durand paintings sold for $36 million, and another one sold for $40 million. The $15,000 will be split. The first $10,000 will come back to me for, my cost, because that was a painting I bought when everyone was asleep, and everything over 10. Actually, because the opening bid is 15, everything over 15 will come to the Restoration Fund for the Clinton Historical Society. So hopefully, and that's the picture. It's called Connecticut River. And it's, first I should have to disclose that it is not signed, but it has the provenance from several different galleries. And I purchased this at the Shannon Fine Art auction, and they will stand behind it. Matter of fact, today I called I guess I'll call her the manager or the owner. I should call her the owner of the Shannon Gallery, Sandra Germain. And we spoke about this particular painting, and I said, "Is $15,000 reasonable?" She says, "Yes, it is very reasonable, because there's some that have sold far more." So again, this one is being donated for the Talor family, Maud Talor, and in their honor. And I'm hoping that it would, with proper marketing, it should bring a tidy sum. And I'll bring the painting by you later on. I didn't bring it with me tonight because it's so heavy. It is so heavy.
How big?
I will tell you. Where'd it go? Okay. The Duran painting is 18 by 24. First gallery that handled it was Salinger O'Reilly Gallery in New York City. And it's stamped on the back, and it says that it's an Asher B. Duran painting. And again, when I spoke to Sandra Germain today, she said, no doubt about it. So whether you want to sell it there or you want to commission it to an auction house, it's up to you. But that's my deal. First 10 comes back to me, and then everything over 15 is yours. And that's a now. I just want to go back about Asher Duran because I'll just tell you a little bit about him because he's. Hey, are you? Asher Duran grew up in Maplewood, New Jersey. That's where he was born, and that's where he died. And Maplewood, New Jersey was not far from where I grew up. And I have the suspicion that my grandparents probably ran into Asher B. Duran and purchased one of his paintings, because I have a beautiful, which I'm not going to show you the picture of it, but I have a beautiful painting from Asher Duran. Now, he started out as an engraver, and he engraved the Declaration of Independence for John Trumbull. It was a 3-year project. He also engraved The Wife by Samuel F.B. Morse. He was a member of the National Academy of Design, friends with Thomas Cole, and accompanied him on many of his journeys in the Adirondacks, the Catskills, the White Mountains in New Hampshire. He's quoted as saying, the true province of landscape art is the representation of the work of God in the visible creation. By far, he was noted for his painting The Kindred Spirits, which we went over before. And in 2018, his painting called Progress, which was painted in 1853, was purchased by an anonymous donor for $40 million and given to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And a lot of his work is located in the Brooklyn Museum. And it's always kind of fun to, when I first ran into like George McCord and that one painting that I inherited, starting to look up and learn about these particular artists was incredible. Even preparing this program was a real learning experience for me. And I do appreciate that, because I walk away tonight knowing that I've learned a lot about these particular artists and the fact that Thomas Cole came up in a steamboat to Catskill. He ended up living there. Some of his famous works are the Catskill Mountain House, the Catskill Falls, and the ruins of Fort Putnam. I don't know if you know where Fort Putnam is, but Israel Putnam had during the Revolutionary War, had an encampment in Connecticut. And it was there that the ruins are still located. It's open to the public. He was discovered by John Trumbull, Thomas Cole, when he saw the paintings of Cold Spring that were exhibited at the American Academy of Fine Arts. His work is in the New York Historical Society, and he ended up being a teacher. Some of his pupils were Frederick Church, Sanford Robertson Gifford, and John Frederick Kensett. These three are the founders of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So here again, you can see the importance of the Hudson River School of Art and how it's affected the, affected everything, the art collectors, the museums. Now, the next one I just want to go over it real quick is Asher Durand, I told you about. Frederick Church, he was born in Hartford, Connecticut, from a very wealthy family. And he was known for his large landscapes. And at age 18, he became a student of Thomas Cole. And he was also the youngest associate of the National Academy of Design. He became also the most famous painter in the United States. And he traveled to South America. And as you saw, one of his paintings that's at the Vassar Art Francis Lehman Loeb Museum. You can see the fact that the South America had an influence. In 1870, he started the construction of Olana. And if you haven't been there, it is certainly worth a trip. One thing I learned is that the architect was Calvert Vaux, who was a very famous architect. And his work in 1979, his painting called The Icebergs, sold 1979, sold for $2.5 million. And that time it was the third highest amount ever paid for art in the United States. Albert Bierstadt, who you're going to go try to find his painting in Mills. He was born in Germany. Family moved here when he was to the United States when he was 1 year old. And he grew up in New Bedford, Massachusetts. As I said, he traveled west. And as a result, a lot of Rocky Mountain pictures, as you saw from the one that Betty Davis had. But the interesting thing is that in 1882, a fire destroyed his art gallery, his studio in Irvington, New York, and many of his paintings were lost in that fire. So guess what? There are less out there and probably more valuable than you can ever think because of the fact that that fire diminished a lot of paintings. So I brought some interesting things to look at, and I hope I encourage somebody to go to Mills Mansion or Statsburg to find that beautiful, beautiful painting. It's also of the Rocky Mountains, and I hope somebody. I learned something, and I hope I shared something that I learned with you. Yes.
You mentioned very briefly that the church was known for its large landscape. I seem to recall years ago hearing that he or artists like him would do wall-sized paintings like
Yes,
8 foot high and 15 feet wide.
yeah, he did one for New York State, and it was destroyed.
Destroyed.
Yeah, it was destroyed, and unfortunately, it put him into such a heavy depression. He took his own life because of that painting, that mural was destroyed. The mural was in New York State office complex in the state buildings. probably in the capital, state capital. And somehow it was destroyed and he just couldn't get over it. He probably spent years painting it. And it was, as I read, it was absolutely fantastic. I couldn't find any pictures of it, but that was Frederick Church. Yeah. Yeah. But there aren't too many paintings at Olana, as you would hope to see, but the architecture and the view are breathtaking. Now, even if you drive over the Rhinecliff Bridge and look at that view, you can put yourself into a Hudson River School painting just by the feeling of looking over at the Catskill Mountains. You can actually feel that you could be part of that movement or be in one of their paintings.
They also made it connected, so you can actually walk from Olana, walk across the Rip Van Winkle Bridge and walk to Thomas Cole's museum,
Yeah.
or vice versa. They made it connected.
Yeah.
Because the two artists were connected.
Yeah, they were connected, that's for
So
sure.
you can take in both if you go up there.
Okay. Yes, you.
I found something on the internet about Hallenbeck, CB General, Jenna Hallenbeck.
Yeah, it could be.
And who's referred to, I Googled Jenna Hallenbeck. Something came up about a general who was involved in all sorts of government type things.
There you go.
Didn't say anything about being a pianist. Maybe it's
Well, research will do you well. As you've got till October, right? Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, when I mentioned that Clarence Cook, his son, I knew his son. When I was a little boy, his son was an older man, and he was my father's banker for his business. And he would come over to the house, and there aren't many Clarence Cooks around, but he was his son. I went fishing with him one time. I was probably about 6 years old. Long time ago. Okay.
Tell the story of the fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. In Betty Davis's attic, there was a fantastic, I was there was 3 executors. Myself, her stepson, and Norma Dolan. And I pretty much ran the program there. I hired off-duty policemen to help me clean the attic and move things around in the house. And I showed them some of the things that had been appraised before they went up, and they were kind of taken back by that. But one of the things they came down was a Fabergé statue, and it was 7 inches tall. And I spent $8,000 to have it polished, and so it could be properly photographed. It was in a white box. I remember it sat on my living room couch for a few days. But inside, it did say that it was a Fabergé. And it was a Fabergé statue of Tsar Nicholas II's wife's bodyguard. And there was a second statue that was done of the other bodyguard, and that they knew where that was, but they never knew where this one was. Now, Putnam Davis, Betty's husband, his mother purchased it back in the 1920s. And I had records to show what she paid for it back then. And when it went to the auction, they put in an auction estimate between $500,000 and $800,000. Okay. I got a phone call a week before the auction. There's a fellow here who wants to take this statue out of the auction. He'll give you $2 million for it. I said, who is this guy? Well, it was Russian mob. So, and he was there at the auction too. He stopped around 2.5, but it sold for 5.2 million at the auction. And Queen Elizabeth was the buyer. Her jeweler came over, and it's the part of that Romanoff family is on her lineage, and she was a buyer. I never saw her check, but anyway, I told the bank, I'm getting a rather large wire transfer coming in. So would you let me know when it arrives? Yeah. So that was quite interesting. Yeah, that house was filled with a lot of things that Hut Davis's mother had bought, and they were sold at the auction and brought in some fancy prices. And as Betty herself, she came from a family. Her family was in the coal business, and they were quite successful, and just a gold mine. So that was found in the attic. As the painting that my family had, I found that in the attic too, because the fact that my sister started painting, her painting went up, and the painting that I loved dearly came down and went up in the attic. And then I went up in the attic and saw it. I took it to my mother, asked her if I could have it. She said yes. So that's the Asher Durand that I have. Yeah. So I'm good at finding things in the attic in case. The last estate I worked on, I found these storybook dolls. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. The storybook dolls. There were books, and the dolls were made to look like the character in the book. And they were hand painted, and they were scary. And I went to the auction. They didn't want them. I'm not going to sell these. So, they found homes here and there. But that was another, I thought I had another gold mine, but no, not everything works out. Okay, I guess I can shut this down.
I want to thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank
And I
you.
want to say thank you to our audience.
Yes.
And did we have any questions from the audience?
Seen it.
Okay.
How many people are in you?
Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Unmute yourself and ask away.
Like it. Thank you. Do you know how many people are in the audience?
She's like, oh, we gotta be concerned about.
Thanks to the speaker.
Thanks. There's a thanks.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
I think our guest was extremely knowledgeable and
Thank
did a wonderful job.
Now that is that. I have some great friends that are watching tonight. Scott, I went to college with, and he and his wife, we get together at least once a year because the fact that, or maybe twice. No, we used to do it every other year, but now since we're getting older, we do it once a year now. We got married on the same day. We have the same wedding anniversary. Then I've got some great friends that are in Massachusetts, Larry and Eileen. I went to high school with Larry, and he's a collector of art in a way too. And we get together quite often, and we go to museums, to art museums. And it's become fascinating to go to an art museum, and Larry and Eileen and Linda and I were just.
What did Scott say?
I was knowledgeable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And hello, Karen.
Well, I don't know if you can see behind me, but just to my right is a beautiful Hudson Valley painting that Owen gave to me.
Yes, I gave you that.
Kind of in the background, way in the background.
Right.
Who was the artist?
Yeah, Terrell Gable.
Yep.
And Terrell's, I've got some of her work here. I've shown some of her work that's at Bellafield. And everyone that's here gets an envelope from Carol as a little gift. She was very nice to make sure that I had gifts.
That's great.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I guess
Well,
I
thank you.
shut down.